It was sixth period, and Zach was relieved to be in the safe confines of the library, where he didn't have to worry about Ratface Crosby bothering him. Snot rockets like Ratface would rather lick toilets than be seen in the library. It had been a stressful day for Zach. After Ratface forced him to ask that dumb question during the assembly, he'd spent most of the morning in the office waiting for Principal Summers to mete out his punishment. She'd given a stern lecture and a week of lunchtime detentions, sitting at a table facing teachers. He and his fellow prisoners weren't allowed to speak. They couldn't even rest their heads on their arms. Was there any punishment worse than having to look at teachers across a table for 40 minutes? So it was a relief to be in the library during a free period. Zach had taken over 2 PCs. On one, he played Minecraft, one of the few games the school district's filters allowed. On the other, he watched surfing videos. Then, out of nowhere, extra credit Caleb sat down beside him. Minecraft and surfing, huh? The kid said. You see on Twitch about people building the Taj Mahal on MC? The details are amazing. Zach wasn't sure what to do. He and Caleb had been in school together since kindergarten, but they'd hardly ever spoken. Zach paused the game and glanced around the library. Was this a prank? Were Caleb's friends hiding in the stacks, watching or recording them? Meanwhile, Caleb pointed at the other computer screen. You into surfing? Cool. Why is Caleb Arnett trying to be friendly? Zach wondered. What does he want? Is he just going to sit there and talk the whole period? Zach began to blink and bounce his knees rapidly. At a loss for what to do, he turned to the other keyboard and pulled up Biggest Wave Ever Surfed. He and Caleb watched the tiny image of extreme surfer Mark Nguyen scudding down the face of a giant blue wall of curling water at Nazare. Biggest wave ever, Caleb said. Sick. Once again, Zach looked around to check if anyone was watching. But he also knew Caleb wasn't the type to play tricks or make fun of someone. He was one of those kids whose hair was always neatly trimmed, his shirt was always tucked in, and his sneakers looked new and barely scuffed. He was too much of a do-gooder to be openly mean. So listen, Caleb said. Know the esports club Ms. B is starting? Zach frowned. Esports club? Remember the morning announcements? Caleb caught himself and grinned. You were busy watching your phone in that notebook, right? Zach felt his face turn warm with embarrassment. He recalled how Caleb had come back to the classroom while Ms. B was chewing him out about the notebook. What were you watching anyway? Caleb asked. Good war tutorials, Zach said, barely above a whisper. That's what I'm playing, Caleb gushed. Don't you love how smooth the gameplay is? And how the developers actually care about keeping it balanced? Real boots-on-the-ground combat? Not one of those dumb FPS extravaganzas set in the year 86 million with all that made-up futuristic crap, you know? Zach nodded. It sounded like Caleb knew what he was talking about. Know what would be super cool? Caleb asked excitedly. If that's the game the esports club plays. Fat chance, Zach thought. The Good War was rated M. No way would it ever get through the district web filter. And he still didn't understand why Caleb was telling him this. Zach didn't like school. And he didn't like clubs. Why would he like a school club? Want to give it a try? Caleb asked. Why is he trying to get me to be in a club? Zach wondered. Caleb had never shown any interest in him before. Normally, Caleb was interested only in things that gave him a chance to excel and show everyone he was the best. I mean, Caleb went on, don't you at least want to check out those Pravidia X-Masters? They freaking sound awesome. Zach had to admit that Caleb seemed sincere. It was so rare that anyone at school wanted anything to do with him. He said he'd think about it.